You're listening to the Relationships Uncomplicated podcast. Relationship advice so valuable, you won't believe it's free. And now your host, relationship expert, Idit Sharoni.
Welcome back to another episode of Relationships Uncomplicated, episode 83. I'm your host, Idit Sharoni, and today we're diving into a topic that's incredibly important and often deeply devastating. Can couples heal from infidelity when the unfaithful partner is not fully remorseful? Now, we all know that infidelity is one of the toughest challenges any relationship can face. It shakes the very foundation of trust and leaves emotional scars that can feel almost impossible to heal. But what happens when the partner who broke the trust isn't showing the level of remorse you'd hope for? Can the relationship still survive? And more importantly, can it thrive? In today's episode, I've invited two of my amazing team members to help with this discussion. Dr. Yael Haklai-Neagu and Ana de la Cruz are both licensed marriage and family therapists on our team at Relationship Experts, and they work directly with our infidelity recovery coaching clients. As a fair recovery experts with more than 20 years of experience between them, Dr. Yael and Ana bring a wealth of knowledge and practical insights. So thank you both for being here today.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Perfect. So together, we are going to talk about the role of remorse in the healing process, why it's so crucial, and what you can do if your partner isn't fully there yet. We'll explore the ideas and strategies to help you navigate this challenging situation and find a way forward that works for both of you. But before we dive into these heartfelt conversations, let's take a quick moment to introduce our sponsor for this episode. This episode is sponsored by my Infidelity Recovery and Healing program, It's Okay to Stay. If you're struggling in the aftermath of infidelity but want to stay together, you can rebuild trust and heal through genuine expert help from me and my team personally. I started It's Okay to Stay after seeing couples therapy and self-help options often lacked essential components to help couples save their relationship after infidelity. It's Okay to Stay is a complete 8-week coaching program that involves an online roadmap course and one-on-one work with an affair recovery specialist. So if you have faith in your relationship and you want to stay together and heal, let's talk. I'm offering a 45-minute free consultation for couples who want to save their relationship and need expert help. If that's you, just go online to iditsharoni.com/45 and pick a time for a video call that both you and your partner can commit to. I'll hop on. We're first going to start with understanding your struggle, and then we're going to walk through It's Okay to Stay to see if the program is right for you. Look, so many couples try therapy and self-help methods only to be put at odds with each other. But that doesn't have to be you. With expert help, It's Okay to Stay will give you the clarity that you need to understand each other, to heal, and to find a path forward past infidelity. So again, all you have to do to book your free consultation is to go to iditsharoni.com/45. That's iditsharoni.com/45. I'll be honored to stand alongside with you on this journey. All right, now that we've got that covered, let's dive in and get started. You know, in my work with couples dealing with the aftermath of infidelity, I've seen a lot of different struggles, especially when it comes to showing genuine remorse. Many couples hit a point where the journey to healing really hinges on whether or not the unfaithful partner truly feels sorry. Sometimes the unfaithful partner doesn't feel any remorse at all. This can be a huge roadblock to healing because the hurt partner often feels invalidated and stuck in their pain. Without remorse, it's incredibly hard to rebuild trust and move forward. But then there are situations where the unfaithful partner does feel remorse, but it's not complete. For example, they might feel regret for the pain they caused their partner, but not necessarily for the act of betrayal itself. This kind of partial remorse can send mixed signals, making it tough for the hurt partner to fully trust that their partner is truly sorry. Sometimes remorse isn't given the priority it deserves in the healing process. It can come across as forced or not genuine, which only adds to the hurt and confusion. Genuine remorse is such a key step in rebuilding trust and creating a sense of safety in the relationship. I talk about it in many of my podcasts and with our clients. But what about partial remorse? Is that enough? Is that workable? I want you to have a better understanding of what it means in your healing process. So, with all that said, I'd love to get the insights of our expert guests. And I'll start with you, Yael. In your extensive experience working with couples dealing with infidelity, what do you often see when an unfaithful partner struggles to express genuine remorse?
Yeah, in my work with couples in the aftermath of infidelity, I've noticed that sometimes unfaithful partner face challenges, right, in expressing remorse, as you mentioned. And I've noticed mainly two reasons. The first one would be they're not fully remorseful. And the second one that I've noticed, they're locked in shame. And I want to go ahead with the first one, if it's okay. So some individuals express regret for hurting their partners, but struggle to feel full remorse for the infidelity. This can happen when they believe their actions were somewhat justified. So, for example, I had a client who shared with me that he felt somewhat entitled to seek fulfillment or validation, or fulfillment and validation outside of the relationship because some personal issues he had and some relationship issues.
Right. Before you continue, I mentioned you said the word entitled or somewhat entitled. And I want to stress that because I think we as a team, we know when we say entitled exactly what we mean. And I think that I want our listeners to know that when we say entitled, we are not thinking about the narcissistic personality that thinks that they deserve everything, or like a brat or anything like that. That's not the entitled we're talking about. We're just talking about someone feeling that they deserve something because of a good reason. I work really hard, or I'm a really good wife, a devoted mother, right? So it's not that sense of full entitlement.
Or I was lonely in the relationship. And thank you for elaborating about this, because I think it's important. So someone that felt very lonely in their relationship. So something of that nature. I also had clients who struggled to feel full remorse because they felt anger, right? Or resentment towards a partner after having some relationship issues. And therefore, it was difficult for them to genuinely express remorse. And this situation, when one feels anger or resentment, it interferes in the unfaithful partner ability to feel empathy toward the hurt partner and express remorse. And empathy is such a big part in the healing process. So when unfaithful partners hold on to their pain or hurt or anger or resentment or sense of I deserve this because I was lonely or unhappy, it's hard for them to express genuine remorse. And although it's completely understandable, it can hinder the healing process, as they may mistakenly believe they must first address the pre-existing relationship issues before dealing with infidelity. And in such situations, sometimes unfaithful partners avoid expressing remorse or fail to repair the damage caused by the infidelity.
Right. So what this means is that these unfaithful partners often feel there was some form of injustice before the infidelity, which they believe justifies their actions. This mindset prevents them from stepping up and being the supportive and remorseful partners that that their hurt partners need them to be.
Yes, exactly. And some clients and even some couples therapists, right, mistakenly believe that resolving pre-existing relationship issues should come before or even take priority over addressing the aftermath of infidelity. And we've seen that a lot. And this approach can be damaging to the healing process because it can make the infidelity seem justified, or it can minimize the profound impact of the betrayal, and it can leave the hurt partner feeling unseen or even pressured to move on from their pain and to fix past issues while they're emotionally at their lowest of the lowest.
Right, absolutely. This is something that I've talked about in previous episodes, especially episode 78, if you want to check it out. Many couples go to therapy after infidelity, and they are told to put the betrayal behind them, to focus instead on the relationship issues. Now, the problem is that it assumes that first there was a problem or there were issues in the relationship, and we don't know that yet. And second, that these issues caused or led to the infidelity, which again, we don't know that yet. So, as you said, Yael, this approach leaves so many hurt partners feeling vulnerable and doubting themselves. They literally feel like, is there something wrong with me? Or there is something wrong with me. Okay, but go back to episode 78. I talk about it a lot. I'm sure you'll find it very, very interesting. So going back to you, Yael, you mentioned earlier that there are two main reasons. One of them is not feeling fully remorseful. What's the other reason that unfaithful partners struggle to express remorse?
Yeah, the other reason, as I mentioned earlier, is being locked in shame. And what do I mean by that? So unfaithful partners can also find it hard to show remorse when they're locked in shame or consumed by shame. And they might feel remorseful, but the shame is so overwhelming that they can't bring themselves to face their partner's pain and genuinely express remorse and empathy. And instead, sometimes what we see, they might get defensive or try to avoid the topic. And when they're stuck in such shame like this, they might not believe they can actually help their partner heal, or they might not even realize just how much their partner needs them and need their support to heal. So, it gets into this vicious loop.
Definitely. I mean, that's so true. And we see this all the time. Shame is a significant issue when it comes to infidelity. And I'm glad you brought it up, Yael.
Yeah.
It actually makes me think that we should dedicate an entire episode to discussing shame in the aftermath of infidelity.
Yeah.
I do discuss it here and there in some of the episodes, but I feel like it deserves its own episode. Unfortunately, it's very prevalent. It's big. But that's a topic for another time.
I agree.
So, so Anna, what are your thoughts about the reasons why unfaithful partners struggle to express remorse? What has been your experience?
Right. I completely agree with Dr. Yael and with you as well. I think another significant reason why unfaithful partners often struggle with expressing genuine remorse is the desire to move forward quickly. They want to flip the page. This desire stems from two main reasons. First, reflecting on past actions can feel like regressing. making the partner feel hesitant to revisit painful memories.
Yeah.
I want to stress that the unfaithful partner is also going through a turmoil of emotions, struggling with shame, like Dr. Yael mentioned, with anger and guilt. So there's a lot going on for them as well. See, I recently had an unfaithful partner who was struggling to express remorse. And when we dived a little deeper into what was happening for her, she explained that expressing remorse was like going back to the revelation day. And she was experiencing in that moment the same level of anxiety and horror as she did the day she admitted and revealed everything to her husband. So it can be very daunting. And the second reason that they struggle to express remorse is the desire to move forward quickly, but this could be because of the urgent need to address and resolve the pre-existing issues, like you both mentioned, right? So sometimes this process helps the unfaithful partner, make sense of what they did as they're trying to pick up the pieces and gain an understanding of why they acted the way they did. So this makes sense because it allows the unfaithful partner to manage their level of shame. They might say, well, I did this because of that, or I'm not a bad person. There were problems in our relationship, and that's why I was unfaithful. And sometimes hurt partners also push very hard for the why answer. Why did you do this? And it's absolutely normal to ask why, because they're trying to understand what happened. But the unfaithful partner might interpret this as, let's address all the issues in our relationship prior to the infidelity, which can then take the focus away from the present pain and devastation of the hurt partner, as we mentioned before.
I wonder, do you have any, real life example, like some, an example with a couple that went through this, so maybe our listeners can understand what we are talking about?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I had the honor to work with a couple, and their situation perfectly illustrates this complex dynamic. The wife was profoundly remorseful for hurting her husband. Despite her remorse, she had deep anger towards him. For years, she felt abandoned in the relationship, and her affair had provided the companionship and validation she desperately needed. So, in her view, her husband's emotional neglect had pushed her to seek comfort outside their marriage. All these feelings were blocking her ability to express remorse fully. And on the other hand, the husband was devastated and overwhelmed by pain and betrayal. So, and his wife's anger and her perspective on the affair added layers to their healing process. So while she was truly sorry for the hurt she caused, she was also grappling with the pain from unresolved issues in the relationship, which to her had led to the infidelity. So there was a huge need of, you need to see me too. And it's crucial to recognize and validate these complex emotions. And I can tell you more about this couple as we continue our conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a unique case where there was remorse for the pain caused to the hurt partner, but not so much for the act of betrayal itself.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
curious to learn how this was resolved. But before that, let's summarize the main points that we've covered so far. So both of you highlighted 3 key reasons why unfaithful partners often struggle with showing genuine remorse. Number 1, they might feel regret, but it's not complete. So either they're not fully remorseful or they only feel remorse for hurting their partner. Number 2, there's a sense of shame. And number 3, they might feel that expressing remorse is like going backward, staying stuck in the crisis instead of addressing the pre-existing issues that led up to the infidelity. Did I capture that correctly?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
now let's move forward and discuss how a couple experiencing these challenges can heal from infidelity. We'll dive into that right after this sponsorship message. This episode is sponsored by my Infidelity Recovery and Healing program, It's Okay to Stay. If you're struggling in the aftermath of infidelity but want to stay together, you can rebuild trust and heal through genuine expert help from me and my team personally. I started It's Okay to Stay after seeing couples therapy and self-help options often lacked essential components to help couples save their relationship after infidelity. It's Okay to Stay is a complete 8-week coaching program that involves an online roadmap course and one-on-one work with an affair recovery specialist. So if you have faith in your relationship and you want to stay together and heal, let's talk. I'm offering a 45-minute free consultation for couples who want to save their relationship and need expert help. If that's you, just go online to iditsharoni.com/45 and pick a time for a video call that both you and your partner can commit to. I'll hop on. We're first going to start with understanding your struggle, and then we're going to walk through It's Okay to Stay to see if the program is right for you. Look, so many couples try therapy and self-help methods only to be put at odds with each other. But that doesn't have to be you. With expert help, It's Okay to Stay will give you the clarity that you need to understand each other, to heal, and to find a path forward past infidelity. So again, all you have to do to book your free consultation is to go to iditsharoni.com/45. That's iditsharoni.com/45. I'll be honored to stand alongside with you on this journey. Okay, we are back, and I want to pick up right where we left off. Now that we understand the main reasons why unfaithful partners might feel some remorse, but not fully, the next question is whether this is something that can be worked through. Can a couple facing these challenges still heal from infidelity? So, Yael, how do you help couples where the unfaithful partner says they're partially remorseful or feels remorseful, but isn't really interested in expressing it? How do you handle these situations?
Yeah. So first of all, I want to understand where the unfaithful reluctance is coming from, right? Is it due to anger, resentment, entitlement, shame, or something else, or all of the above? So I want to understand first where it's coming from. And if
like
someone
a good therapist, right?
Yeah, this is our backgrounds after all. So if someone isn't fully remorseful, as we mentioned earlier, perhaps they regret hurting their partner, but they don't feel remorse for having an affair or any other infidelity, by the way, like paid sex. So we'll discuss what led them to choose infidelity over other ways to address their either loneliness or unhappiness. And once we start to explore what led them to choose this route, which, usually stems from a desire to please their partner or to avoid conflict, which is another topic that I'm sure that you talked a lot. Stress,
dealing with stress.
There are many reasons why we choose one route over the other. And when we explore this, and before I continue, it's really important for me to emphasize that nothing justifies infidelity, right? So it's important to recognize that. And even if it seemed justified at the time, looking back, most people realize they could have chosen different paths. So when we explore what led them to choose one route, and then they realize they could have chosen different route, then is when, genuine remorse often kicks in. Understanding that, I could have chosen like a different way to address my loneliness or unhappiness. So it's not something that
you tell them you could have done this, or the hurt partner tells them. It's like they realize it,
which
is so strong, like a powerful realization.
Yeah, because some people feel like they don't had another choice, and it's important to acknowledge that they had other choice. And another important aspect in these situations is explaining to my clients the common mistake I talked earlier about of addressing pre-existing relationship issues before focusing on the magnitude of the infidelity, and how skipping this step can damage the healing process. And prioritizing processing the infidelity and expressing genuine remorse is essential for healing. And everyone that works with me know that I emphasize it a lot in our work. And we've talked about it many times in this podcast, and in our sessions, in our coaching calls. That discovering infidelity is a traumatic event, right? It shatters the reality of the hurt partner. So in this mental and emotional state, it's almost impossible for the hurt partner to explore any pre-existing or pre-infidelity issues. Right. There's so much in their pain. And it's not that we're not eventually address these issues. We usually do. It's just that we need to delay this conversation, and by first addressing the hurt partner's pain due to the betrayal, we can create a foundation for genuine healing and understanding. And usually what happens is, like, once the hurt partner feels heard and feel that their pain is acknowledged and validated, they slowly gain the emotional capacity to attend to pre-existing issues and also invest in repairing.
Yes. So it's not that we don't do it because we don't feel like addressing pre-existing issues. It's because sometimes there isn't a connection between pre-existing issues and the infidelity. Sometimes infidelity is not about the relationship, about anything that was right or wrong in the relationship. But I'm thinking, let me give you an example not from romantic relationship, just friendship. I mean, imagine you've been a good friends with someone for years, right? But lately you've been, I don't know, super busy with life, kids, work, whatever. You haven't spoken much, like you used to.
Yeah.
One day you find out that this friend had a huge birthday party, like for their, I don't know, 40th, 50th birthday. Everyone was invited, including all of your mutual friends, but not you. Now, you call your friend and you tell them you're deeply hurt, but what they do is they keep explaining why they didn't invite you. And they keep saying that they didn't invite you because you haven't really spoken lately. You haven't been in touch. You were very busy with things, blah, blah, blah. For some reason, this explanation is not making you feel any better. You know why? It's because no remorse was expressed. Your friend thought that highlighting the reason would make you feel better, but in reality, we need to hear the remorse first. Only after we feel that genuine remorse can we then be open to hearing the justification. Does that make sense?
Yes, and I love this example because it's usually like this. In order for us to hear what went wrong, we need to feel heard. And that if someone hurts us really bad, we need to hear apology or regret and genuine remorse. And sometimes unfaithful partners struggle to embrace the mindset of genuine remorse or empathy because of their hurt and pain and everything that we talked earlier, and they don't fully understand their profound role in the healing process. And they might not realize even the importance of expressing remorse before addressing general issues, And as a therapist and as a coach in this program, I always look for ways to help my clients connect with the concept I introduce and relate to what I encourage them to do, right? And my preferred method, doing it by using metaphors or analogies, and I believe that metaphors and analogies evoke emotions and help clients connect with ideas and on a deeper level, and almost always shift their mindset.
Can you explain a little bit about what's a metaphor, an analogy, so for our listeners to know exactly?
So I use images from different contexts that has nothing to do with the actual infidelity to illustrate an idea. Okay. And you know what? Instead of elaborating about this, I can share one of the analogies with our listeners that I often use with my unfaithful partners who struggle to express fully remorse. And if you are an unfaithful partner who struggles to express remorse due to any of the reasons we mentioned earlier, so this one is for you. And if you want, you can close your eyes and imagine the scenario that I'm describing, or just not, whatever works best for you. But I want you, analogy that I use the analogy of drowning in an ocean. So I want you to imagine your partner drowning in a deep, stormy ocean, fighting high waves, swallowing water, and crying for help. And you are standing on the dock and knowing that you pushed your partner into the deep water, but you're so overwhelmed by shame, or you're holding onto some anger or resentment or sense of entitlement or all of the above, and you pace back and forth on the dock saying, oh my God, I can't believe I pushed them and I can't bear to see them drowning. Or sometimes you leave the dock because you cannot bear or can even face the sight of and the sound of their struggle. Or you stand there upset with what led you to push your partner into the water. Sometimes you might even think that there are some justified reason for them to be in the water. So you're going back and forth, pacing on the dock while your partner is drowning, fighting the waves, crying for help. So instead of standing on the dock, the first thing you must do is jump into the water and save your partner and help them stabilize from this overwhelming and scary experience of drowning. So before anything else, you must jump into the water and get your partner out. And if you close your eyes to imagine this, you can open it now. And you know it. And Anna, I develop yes, and I developed this analogy during working with unfaithful partners. And when I felt like they're stuck, I wanted to help them understand how important their role are. And sometimes they struggle to show up and jump into the water, metaphorically speaking. And of course, I always adjust this analogy to fit each client's unique situation.
Right. So before you continue, Yael, I just want to stress that what you just described is an example. This is not something that you use with every client in every situation. This is the art of being a therapist. So yeah, definitely we use science, right? But if you're a good therapist, you lean a lot on your ability to be creative. And this is the art of therapy. So it's not that, if your therapist didn't use this analogy, then they're not good therapists. No, it's right. So it's really about coming up with something that belongs in your client's world. So sometimes water makes sense, but sometimes maybe a different analogy will make more sense. And sometimes, you have to be careful. So it's not something you can do by yourself. Not anyone can do this. And so I just wanted to stress how artful this is. And that it's not something to take for granted. Did you want to say something else?
Yes. And, sometimes the partner is not drowning, it's swimming, but it gets tired. So I always craft it to adjust my client's situation. And sometimes I use a totally different analogy or metaphor, but I really try to convey the message of their role. And many clients have shared with me that this analogy specifically has been a game changer because it marked a turning point for them in understanding their role in the healing process, and that it has enabled them to express genuine remorse, because now they got, oh my God, I need to jump to the water. I need to do something actively to help my partner. And then the remorse was genuine. And then they were able to show up more effectively for their clients. So sometimes you need something from a different world to understand something that relates to your situation.
Yes. I think what it does is it gets people unstuck.
Yes.
Right.
And experience mind shift, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Staying on the dock is not an option anymore.
Right. Right. So Anna, I know you mentioned that, the couple where the wife had an affair and she felt remorse for hurting her husband, but not for having the affair. I think we all want to hear how you handle this challenging situation.
Right. I love metaphors. I've used metaphors in many different ways to help couples heal. And when I heard this metaphor from Dr. Yael in one of our peer supervision meetings, it instantly resonated with me. I loved it. So while working with this amazing couple, the one I mentioned in the beginning, I personalized the metaphor to perfectly align with their need in that moment. So making sure that it truly resonated with their situation and that it was something that they could picture.
Mhm.
They had mentioned at some point that they lived near a lake and that the waters were very dark, that people could fall in and no one would even notice. So I had this information in the back of my mind. So as I mentioned earlier, this couple was really, really struggling with the complexity of expressing remorse. The husband was so deeply hurting, desperately needing to hear genuine remorse from his wife. And she was remorseful for hurting him, but also felt anger because she believed his neglect in the marriage had pushed her to have an affair. So their conversations often spiraled into arguments about who was more at fault, which wasn't helping either of them. The wife felt abandoned, and the affair had provided the companionship she was missing throughout the relationship. So there was a lot of resentment. She was stuck in a cycle of guilt, saying, I'm sorry for hurting you, but you need to see what you did that led me there. But he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready to hear that. He was overwhelmed by pain and betrayal. So to shift her perspective, I used the drowning metaphor. I asked her to close her eyes and imagine both of them walking next to a dark lake. I asked her to picture him saying things to her that upset her, leading her to push him into the lake without much thought. I then asked her, he's drowning. He can't swim. What do you want to do? What do you want to do right now? She immediately responded. She was like, I want to pull him out and then tell him why I pushed him. So I said, yeah, perfect. Let's do that. Let's pull him out first. And then we'll talk about why you pushed him. It was a total breakthrough.
Oh, you give me goosebumps.
Yes.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely. This metaphor allowed them to focus on his immediate pain. He expressed how deeply hurt he was by the betrayal. And she was able to express genuine remorse, love, and reassurance in that moment. This moment of empathy and understanding led to something beautiful. I didn't have to probe for it. It happened automatically. He began to acknowledge the gaps in the relationship where he had neglected her. He began to take full responsibility for his own actions, just as she did for hers. So healing truly began in that moment.
Wow.
They both felt seen and heard by each other. And by the end of the program, they expressed how impactful and important this analogy was for them, shifting their mindset on the order in which things needed to be addressed.
Yeah.
So this couple went on to build a beautiful relationship together. They're very happy now, and everyone around them has noticed. The last thing I heard from them was that one of their grown children basically said to them, "What has gotten into you two? You're so lovey-dovey. Get a room." And this was music to their ears. Their transformation was truly, truly remarkable. I have witnessed firsthand the profound impact this program can have on relationships. And it is truly remarkable to witness their transformation. So guiding people through this healing journey to me, is an absolute honor. It's very inspiring to see how couples can overcome challenges, heal deep wounds, and ultimately thrive in their relationships. It's an amazing experience to see.
Oh, absolutely. I agree so much. And this is music to my ears. As the person that created this program, thinking, how we are impacting, and I truly feel honored. So yeah.
I love, Anna, what we did with the lake. That was amazing adjustment, right? Like you talked earlier already about the art.
I tweaked it.
It's beautiful. Beautiful.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I'm sure this story, inspires hope for our listeners, for you guys as well. Like I said before, to me, this is the art of therapy, being able to lean on science while artfully understanding complex situations and helping couples see things differently and make meaningful shifts. Okay, so we're nearing the end, and I want to talk about the takeaways. What can people take away listening to this? So I'll start and then I'll ask you.
Okay.
One takeaway I want you to get from this episode is that if you're in a situation where your partner doesn't feel fully remorseful, or if you are the betraying partner and you feel only partially remorseful, it's not a deal breaker. It's not a deal breaker. You can definitely work on this, but you will need help. This is a complex situation. It's not as easy. It is a complex situation, and I believe that it needs extra steps. Number one, to unpack the remorse and or the lack thereof. And number two, to understand the meanings of the infidelity to the unfaithful partner. And I would even say number three, to create a roadmap to healing that facilitates those conversations. This is something that we often do as part of our program. We don't necessarily tell people, if you're partially remorseful, then you can't, right? If they're not remorseful, then it's a problem and we won't be able to help them probably. But if there is some level of remorse, we definitely can work with that. So if this resonates with you, and we definitely invite you to reach out to us. So Yael and Anna, what would be your takeaway? What would you like our listeners to take away?
Yeah, I think continuing what you said, Idit, the main takeaway I hope our listeners get from this episode is that healing in the aftermath of infidelity requires first addressing the damage caused by the infidelity itself, which involves, as we mentioned, expressing genuine remorse. And only later in the process can both partners attend to pre-existing relationship issues. And this process requires a lot of patience and mainly empathy. So I really hope our clients, this
so
is
like you want them to take away the order. There's order. You can't
skip that. Yeah,
you can
skip that step.
What about you, Anna?
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to recognize that both partners are often dealing with their own emotional turmoil, the shame, the guilt, the anger, the pain, as we mentioned. So healing requires patience, empathy, and understanding of each other's perspective. So by validating these emotions and addressing the underlying issues in an orderly fashion, right, couples can find a path to genuine healing and rebuild a stronger and more loving relationship. So I truly hope this episode inspires listeners to approach their own relationships with more compassion and openness, knowing that even in the most challenging times, transformation and growth are possible.
Yes.
Well, amen to that.
Yeah.
Well, my friends, what an incredible episode full of wisdom and hope. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Relationships Uncomplicated. We hope our discussion today has shed light on the complexities of dealing with incomplete remorse in the aftermath of infidelity. Remember, healing is possible, even in challenging situations like this, but it requires understanding, patience, and the right guidance. If you're facing these struggles in your relationship, please don't hesitate to reach out for professional help. Our team at Relationship Experts is here to support you through our Infidelity Recovery Program, offering personalized guidance to help you navigate this difficult journey. If you found this episode helpful, and we all hope you did, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with others who might benefit from our insight. And as always, I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions or topics, or if you'd like us to cover any future episodes, feel free to reach out. Thank you both, Yael and Anna. Thank you, our listeners. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Remember, you are worthy of love, forgiveness, and the beautiful possibility of a brighter tomorrow. Keep shining your light, my friends. Until next time, this is Idit Sharoni signing off. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.